Hello and welcome to the continuation of the Disney Era's Ranked miniseries. I'm setting out to order Walt Disney Animation Studios movies from my least to most favorite separated by eras. So far we've covered the Golden Age, the Wartime Era, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, the Renaissance Era, and the Post-Renaissance Era. So if you missed one of those, you might want to go check them out first. I'll have the videos linked in the description down below. This is the 7th episode of the series where we'll be covering the final section of movies known as the Revival Era. Let's get into it. This is a little tricky to talk about since we're still in the Revival Era right now, but as it currently stands, the era spans from 2009 to present and includes films 49 to 60 from Walt Disney Animation Studios. It could be debated whether we're really still in the Revival Era, but for the sake of finishing this series, I'm going to be including all 12 of the remaining films in this video. The Revival has been a great and successful time for the studio, as the name would suggest. After some misfires in the post-Renaissance, Disney finally learned how to make truly wonderful computer animated movies, and they've found themselves right back on top of the animation game. There are 2 traditionally animated movies in this era, but for the most part, it's known as a CGI collection of films. The Revival has been like a rebirth for Disney animation, one in which the studio would bring in more box office revenue than ever before. Somehow, Disney keeps finding a way to adapt and continually raise the standard. This is no doubt one of Disney Animation's best collection of movies, and I'm thrilled to be able to talk about each of them in this video. Now let's start the list. Number 12. This movie does nothing wrong. It's pleasant and harmless, but while I appreciate the attempt at making Winnie the Pooh cinematically relevant again, it feels quite unnecessary. The thing about Winnie the Pooh is that it transcends its movies and shorts. The characters are basically permanent fixtures of pop culture and have been for decades now, so even though it was a nice idea to revisit them in the canon, it also seems odd, especially coming off the heels of a movie like Tangled. A lot of people probably don't even realize this movie exists. It didn't do much at the box office, and its release coinciding with the last Harry Potter movie couldn't have helped. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh back in the Bronze Age was episodic in nature as it strung together a few different shorts, but this take on the silly old bear focuses on one continuous narrative. The runtime is only 63 minutes, but I'm okay with that. The movie follows the 100 Acre Gang as they try to rescue Christopher Robin from what they believe to be a scary creature called the Baxen. I love how the main plot here only happens because of poor writing and reading skills, but it's sweet to see how concerned the characters are for their friend. There are a couple fun plots incorporated along the way, including Eeyore's missing tail and Pooh's relentless search for honey. My favorite scene has to be the one with all the confusion about the knot.
Can you tie a knot?
I cannot.
Ah, so you cannot.
No, I cannot not.
Not?
Who's there?
Pooh?
Pooh who?
No, Pooh.
I appreciate that the animation here honors the style of the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Both the characters in the background still feel like they're in an illustrated storybook, but it looks considerably cleaner as the scratchiness of the 1977 film has been eliminated. It's also just nice to see another traditionally animated Disney movie. The Princess and the Frog is often thought of as the last of its kind, but Winnie the Pooh actually holds that title. I said earlier that this movie does nothing wrong, but I do have a bone to pick with Christopher Robin's eyes. There are several original songs in Winnie the Pooh written by Bobby Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez, and we'll definitely be talking about these talented songwriters later on. Most of the new songs are cute and fun. They don't touch the songs the Sherman Brothers wrote for the Many Adventures, but I wouldn't expect them to. It was a good choice to have Zooey Deschanel and M. Ward do a few songs for the movie as well. Deschanel's voice has a classic charm that works well with the title track in particular. Henry Jackman's score does a lovely job of being unintrusive as it accompanies the story with sweet and fun music. The score is never the star of the show, and it's not supposed to be. The last thing I'll mention is the voice acting. Seeing as this Winnie the Pooh movie came out 34 years after the other one, a new voice cast was in order, and while none of them beat the originals, I think the cast did a terrific job. Jim Cummings as Pooh and Tigger is definitely the standout. Fun fact, songwriter Kristen Anderson Lopez actually voiced Kanga in this movie.
No. How
how about we celebrate with silence?
Winnie the Pooh is coming in last on my revival rankings simply because it happens to be a very strong era and it feels out of place, not too unlike The Rescuers Down Under in the Renaissance. This movie isn't nearly as compelling or ambitious as the rest of the era, but it's always delightful to spend time with our friends in the 100-Acre Wood. This collection of characters is hard to beat, and they bring such a warmth and comfort with them. This isn't something I crave to watch on the regular, but if I'm feeling down, it can hit the spot like chicken soup for the soul. Number 11. The idea of a Wreck-It Ralph sequel seemed intriguing and promising. There was so much more of the video game arcade world to be explored, but I guess that's not what Disney had in mind because, as you can tell from the title, this movie is about the internet. This movie is such a mixed bag. I don't like the meta elements, but at the same time, they can be very entertaining. I won't pretend I didn't have a blast with the princess scenes, but something about the whole idea of this just feels wrong. Disney movies have historically been pretty far removed from reality, or at least about things in distant history. Ralph Breaks the Internet is about something we're still experiencing right now, so it feels topical and instantly dated. When this came out, a lot of the internet jokes and memes were already a few years old. These current and corporate elements are simply not things I wish to see in a Disney animated film. I do think the depiction of the internet is quite creative, so I'll give props for that. And the movie is generally pretty watchable despite including elements I'm not a huge fan of. The conflict is grounded in Ralph and Vanellope's friendship, which was beautifully established in the first movie. So even when we enter the outlandish world of the internet, things are still okay. But the more time we spend inside the internet, the more difficult it gets to stay on board. Ralph and Vanellope don't spend as much time together, which I don't like because their dynamic is the most engaging part of Wreck-It Ralph, but I know it's because Vanellope's arc is about finding happiness elsewhere. I'll just be blunt, I hate spending time in Slaughter Race. It looks grungy and ugly, and Shank isn't that impressive of a new character. I can see why Vanellope enjoys the excitement she finds there, but as a viewer, I'm not into it. Contrasting Vanellope's interest in branching out is Ralph's clinginess and codependency on her. This isn't a bad theme to explore, but the execution is really questionable as we reach the third act of the movie. I remember being in the theater watching the thousands of Ralphs stacking up thinking, what the hell am I watching? Learning to accept your friends for who they are and respecting that their desires may shift away from yours is important. I see value in what Ralph and Vanellope went through, I only wish it happened in a less ridiculous way. I still feel emotionally invested and impacted by their bond in the end, but this came dangerously close to going completely off the rails. It's also a shame how Calhoun and Felix got sidelined. They were a big part of what made the first movie great, and they were paid dust here. Ralph Breaks the Internet has great animation, but I'm not that fond of any of the settings or new character designs. Points for creativity, but I'm not blown away. Henry Jackman, who scored the first movie, returned for this one, and he incorporated some of his original themes, which helps the movies feel cohesive. Overall, the score is good, but not super impactful to me. The soundtrack standout is the song A Place Called Slaughter Race. The main reason it's special is because it was composed by the legendary Alan Menken. It's a humorous track and one of the stronger segments in the film. Julia Michaels does a lame version of it in the credits, along with the bland and empty sounding Zero by Imagine Dragons. Ralph Breaks the Internet is a movie revolving around themes of friendship that gets largely overshadowed by hollow jokes and internet gags. Some of it is funny, but I cringe to think about how it will be received even just 5 to 10 years from now. I respect the guts to try tackling something as huge as the internet with such creativity, but this is more fluff than substance. It's not terrible, but I wish that Ralph and Vanellope had gotten a sequel that was worthy of them. Number 10. Guys, when I tell you that I wanted to love this movie so badly, After 2 sequels, I was really looking forward to something fresh and original from the studio, and based on Raya's synopsis and concept art, I thought we were in for an absolute gem. Raya and the Last Dragon is not bad, but it didn't live up to what I was hoping it would be. It feels like the characters bend to the will of the plot rather than the characters driving the story forward. Raya needs to collect all the pieces of the Dragon Gem, and she does so without a ton of opposition, and along the way, her and Sisu gain a new companion from each region. It all leads to a head where the characters must participate in a blind show of trust so that order can be restored to Kumandra. That's the main theme of the movie. Trust leads to unification and thriving. While this can be true, the way the movie displays this concept is a little hard to believe. Raya's father, Chief Benja, has a dream to see the regions of Kumandra become one again, but inviting them all to Heart where any of them could easily steal the Dragon Gem seems foolish and naive. And then there's the whole situation with Nomari. I have trouble deciphering her motives, but best I can tell, she struggles a lot with her guilt mixed with the pressure her mother puts on her. It's annoying when she tells Raya she's just as much to blame for Sisu's death as she is, because I don't think that's true, but whatever. At the climax, Raya sees that they must put the pieces of the Dragon Gem back together, symbolizing the reuniting of Kumandra, but she can't convince her companions to put trust in Nomari after what she's done, and I can't blame them. So Raya has to take the first step, and since her friends have come to care for and trust her, they give in and follow suit. This is powerful in theory, but also super dumb. Nomari could have easily just left, and she almost did. For the sake of the plot, she ends up doing the right thing and all is well, but it feels a little too simplified and idealistic. Trusting people and being unified is a wonderful thing, and I applaud the movie for trying to relay an optimistic message about this, but it's also not necessarily the wisest lesson to share. Blindly trusting others won't always work out in the real world, but I know the movie is aiming more to be a beacon of hope than a blueprint for tackling events in reality. Overall, the theme could have used more nuance. The dragon lore and the Droon are pretty bare bones as well. There are several positives about Raya and the Last Dragon though. The animation is stellar and it really shines in the settings. The Southeast Asian influence and style is simply gorgeous and a treat to observe. I can't believe they had to animate most of this in quarantine. I like the character designs for all the humans, but I do need to complain just for another second here. Why did they make the dragons look like that? Sisu straight up looks goofy. I really wish they'd gone with a different look, at least for her face. And Awkwafina is awesome, but she's becoming a token figure when it comes to Asian-led films, and a lot of her jokes fall flat in this role. Even if it's a little convenient how they come together, I really like the main group of characters in this movie. They have a fun dynamic, and you really feel for all of them due to how they've lost their families. I absolutely love Noi, the con baby from Talon, and her monkeys. They're really cute and bring an amusing quality to the film.
Oh my goodness!
Tuk Tuk is also very cute. James Newton Howard returns for the first time since Treasure Planet to compose the score for Raya, and as usual, he did a fantastic job. The score incorporates Southeast Asian influences within its orchestral arrangement. There are pretty sounding, heartfelt moments along with soaring, lighthearted, and atmospheric themes. Raya and the Last Dragon fulfilled what I wanted it to be in terms of setting and animation, but its plot and themes could have been stronger. I still like it, but I wanted to love it, and I feel held back from doing so. It's a very new movie, so it could always grow on me, but I'll have to wait and see. I'm still happy Disney made this movie for the Southeast Asian representation as well as for being a gorgeously animated original story. Number 9. Loosely based on a Marvel Comics series, Big Hero 6 is Walt Disney Animation's take on the ever-popular superhero genre. The market has been oversaturated in these types of movies for the past decade, but Big Hero 6 finds a way to stand on its own, and that's largely thanks to Baymax. The Disneyfied Michelin Man is to thank for the humor and charm this movie possesses. Big Hero 6 begins by grounding the story firmly in the relationship between brothers Hiro and Tadashi. Even though Tadashi passes away early on in the movie, his connection with Hiro was well established enough that it emotionally propels Hiro's journey in a believable way. Baymax is Tadashi's invention, and he's Hiro's last connection to his brother. He becomes a comforting companion to Hiro, but soon evolves into a vehicle for revenge. Hiro starts to lose himself in his grief and rage, and it's hard to watch, but the way that Baymax brings him back with the video of Tadashi, reminding him of his brother's hopeful vision, is highly effective and touching. Baymax may look like a Teletubby, but he's able to facilitate some of the most important and authentic emotional beats of the story. It's painful to watch Hiro have to let go of Baymax when he's already lost so much, but it really displays the strength of Hiro's heart and his dedication to carrying on Tadashi's vision, and he's rewarded in the end with Baymax's return. I think it's a little funny that Hiro starts hanging out exclusively with Tadashi's friends who are older than him, but it makes a lot of sense for the plot. It's a good group of characters. Honey Lemon is probably my favorite of the bunch. I'm not the biggest fan of Fred's humor, but his knowledge and enthusiasm in all things superhero helps make the plot possible. I like how Hiro helps them all elevate the intelligence and expertise they already have in order to become superheroes. The way Tadashi's friends make sure to look out for Hiro and how he helps them reach their highest potential in return is awesome. I also have to shout out Aunt Cass and Mochi.
Harry, baby.
Where Big Hero 6 loses some points is with its villain. Callahan is pretty lame. Losing his daughter is a tragedy, and I get his desire for revenge against Cray, but that doesn't very well justify his lack of any conscience regarding the kids. He doesn't care that Tadashi died in vain trying to save him, and he doesn't think twice about putting Hiro and the rest of the team in danger. It feels even dumber after Baymax realizes Callahan's daughter is still alive and sacrifices himself to save her. I hope Callahan enjoys his time in prison.
Dumb bitch.
The animation is impressive in Big Hero 6. I'm going to be sounding like a broken record for this era. San Francisco is one of the best settings in any Disney movie. The fictional city so perfectly combines the amazing cities of San Francisco and Tokyo to make such a stunning and cool place. It's futuristic but grounded in reality, and I love that. There are some magnificent shots throughout the film as well as impressive displays of fictional technology. I like the character designs as well. Baymax is of course the standout. He's simple as can be, but he's perfection. In terms of music, there's one original Fall Out Boy song called Immortals that I like well enough. The score is what leaves more of an impression. Henry Jackman is back once again, and he crafted a score that glimmers with futuristic elements while being exciting and still hitting those vital emotional beats. It's a fitting accompaniment to the film. Big Hero 6 is funny, cute, sad, action-packed, emotional, and more. It ticks a lot of the boxes that make a great film. I'm glad that despite a few flaws, it never loses sight of its emotional core. Baymax is a Disney character for the ages, and the movie's themes exploring grief, forgiveness, and the use of technology for the betterment of society come through to make a big impact. The revival is a strong era, so even though ranking 9th seems low, it's not such a bad thing. There are just other movies I'd prefer to watch sooner than this, but I definitely appreciate Big Hero 6 for the refreshing, inventive, and emotionally resonant movie that it is. Number 8. An original story that's also a musical? This is right up my alley from the sounds of it. Encanto didn't exactly hit the nail on the head for me, but it was close. The plot is the main thing that failed to wow me. Or maybe I should say the execution of the plot, because I liked what they were going for. The movie is about the multi-generational Colombian family, the Madrigals, and is set in their enchanted house, the Casita. Every family member has been given a unique magical gift with the exception of our protagonist Mirabel.
And none for
Mirabel.
5.
The struggle of being the only giftless Madrigal paired with her charismatic personality instantly makes Mirabel a likable and relatable protagonist. When the Encanto shows signs of being in danger, Mirabel is determined to be the one to save the miracle so that she can be seen as a worthy member of the family, particularly in the eyes of Abuela, who makes her disappointment in Mirabel's lack of a gift no secret. Part of me likes that this movie only takes place at the house. It can make the movie feel small in scope, but the size of the family and the emotional conflict helps balance it out. Mirabelle accidentally becomes her family's unpaid therapist on her quest to save the miracle,
And how do you feel about that?
but it becomes clear that most of them needed to let a few things out. The focus is on Mirabelle and her sisters, Isabella and Luisa. Through song, Mirabelle is able to see that the gifts she is so jealous of have actually become a huge burden to her family members. Where Mirabelle feels unimportant due to her lack of gift, her sisters express that they feel like they only matter because of their gift, and the pressure placed on them because of this is nearing unbearable levels. I love the themes being explored here, but sometimes the emotional shifts come too quickly, more with Isabella than Luisa. The main source of emotional conflict comes from Abuela. She is one frustrating character, but once we learn more of her backstory and the pain and suffering she went through, it becomes so much more understandable why she pushes so hard for the family gifts to matter. But that still doesn't excuse her treatment of Mirabelle, or Bruno for that matter. The good thing is that everyone's eyes have been open to their fellow family members' struggles and experiences, and in an appropriate metaphor, they literally build a new foundation on which to recreate their home. It's fantastic to see a Disney movie tackling something as complex as generational trauma in a way that's entertaining and accessible for younger audiences. Sometimes I think it could use more fleshing out, but I still appreciate it. And from what I've heard, Encanto is a lovely depiction of Colombian culture, so that's a wonderful aspect of this movie. Thinking about what Encanto could mean for so many people, young and old, is really special. My favorite part of this movie is, shocker, the animation. Encanto feels extra bright and colorful. I'm a big fan of the set designs, and the character designs are strong as well. A huge part of this film's personality comes from its music. The original score, composed by Germain Franco, is excellent. It incorporates Colombian styles and instruments, and it's lively, mystical, and beautiful. The original songs were written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. I had to let them marinate a little, but once I did, I found that I really like this soundtrack. The family magical is a fitting way to relay some exposition, even if it is a little chaotic. Waiting on a miracle effectively brings us into Mirabelle's perspective to empathize with her. Surface Pressure and We Don't Talk About Bruno have to be the standouts, mostly for their catchiness. I have a hard time loving them just cause they sound more like pop songs than Disney songs, but they're still really good songs. Just looking at the impact this soundtrack has had on TikTok and the Billboard Hot 100 is kinda crazy. On the whole, I like Encanto. I have my hesitations with some of the plot elements, but there aren't any huge flaws that I can see. Sometimes a movie will just connect more with you, and sometimes it won't. I'm just happy that Disney is still succeeding with original works, especially in the age of COVID. Encanto has undoubtedly made a big impression on the current pop culture landscape. I love the themes about self-worth and family dynamics spanning generations. Encanto teaches us that we as individuals matter more than any one of our traits or talents, and that's truly an important and valuable message to carry forward, no matter who you are. Number 7. A Gift from the Heavens. The triumphant return of traditional animation. It had only been 3 films since the last one, the universally adored Home on the Range, but damn if it didn't feel like way longer than that. This felt like coming home, for audiences and animators alike. And it wasn't only the return to hand-drawn animation, but to the Princess Fairy Tale musical. So why is it only 7th? The Princess and the Frog comes in very separate sections for me. There's the part when Tiana is human and the part when she's a frog, and I like one of these a lot more than the other. When Tiana is a human living in New Orleans, this movie is delicious. When she's a frog out in the bayou, it becomes lackluster and even a bit of a chore to watch. I want to rank this higher, but I just don't enjoy the movie as much when Tiana is a frog, and that's a bit difficult to separate out of the plot, right? So I don't know what the answer is. Tiana is notably the first Black Disney princess. This was long overdue, but I'm glad it finally happened. And I'm not going to rip on the frogs for this entire segment, but when you think about how Disney's first Black lead spends the majority of her movie as a frog, it's not the best look. I really wish there was a way for Tiana and Naveen to remain humans for most of the movie, but regardless, I think their relationship was well developed. Like any Disney romance, it happens way too fast, but Tiana and Naveen spend more time getting to know each other than most due to their unique amphibian situation. Tiana teaches Naveen about the value of hard work and perseverance, and Naveen in turn reminds Tiana about the importance of love and enjoying life. I like how Disney almost criticized their former selves with the themes in this movie, but didn't take it to a comedic level like Frozen did. The Princess and the Frog doesn't aim to deter the viewer from dreaming and wishing on a star, but it also doesn't pretend like you don't have to work hard to earn what you get. It lands somewhere in the middle with a sweet middle ground compromise. The movie has decent side characters, but I don't care about them that much. Louis can be obnoxious, and Ray just isn't really my thing. His death was sad, but the silver lining is that he finally got to be with Evangeline. Charlotte brings a lot of humor to the film, although I question the favorable depiction of her and her dad. Something tells me Big Daddy LaBeouf owns a plantation. The setting for this film is immaculate. New Orleans is a city overflowing with rich character and charm. Between the architecture, the food, the music, and the people, I am in love. It's the perfect setting for a semi-modern fairy tale. I only wish we got to spend the whole movie in the city. I like the bayou too, but it's not nearly as captivating. The animation depicting the settings and characters is marvelous. For the time that we get to spend in New Orleans, the animation does it justice. There are countless stunning shots throughout this movie. The only animation I'll complain about is, you guessed it, the frogs. Something about their design feels a little lazy and half-formed. I already don't like that Tiana and Naveen are frogs, so not enjoying their design doesn't help. The music is a huge part of The Princess and the Frog. New Orleans is synonymous with jazz, so of course it had to be heavily incorporated here. The decision to bring on composer Randy Newman of Pixar fame was a great choice. He was born in New Orleans, and he has an undeniable talent for composing fun and memorable jazz scores. He also wrote the original songs for the movie, which are very strong. It's not my personal favorite collection of songs, but there are some serious standouts like Almost There and Friends on the Other Side. The Almost There segment is my favorite of the whole movie. The song paired with the Art Deco graphic style is immaculate. When it comes down to it, I am so happy to have The Princess and the Frog as part of the revival era. It's a love letter to New Orleans and to traditional animation as it straddles the line between old and new. It shares important messages about love and passion, the value of a good work ethic, and the delicate balance between these things. Tiana is the best protagonist Disney has seen in years. I hope Disneyland gets its act together and opens a Tiana's Place restaurant soon, because I really need to be trying all of her food. I have my issues with the frog portion of this film, but so many positives from the movie shine through. It's always a nice time when I rewatch The Princess and the Frog and pay a little visit to our friends down in New Orleans. Number 6. It's always a little surprising when an idea as creative as this works out so well. Wreck-It Ralph is the perfect movie to showcase what Disney Animation can do with fresh and original modern stories in the age of computer animation. There's so much potential here because any characters from the different arcade games can come together and interact. We start in the Fix-It Felix Jr. game that Ralph calls home, but most of the story comes from characters crossing over into other games. That's exactly how the film's core dynamic between Ralph and Vanellope is formed. Ralph's dissatisfaction with his bad guy role is totally understandable, even if the choices he makes to try to fix this aren't the wisest. But as I said, it introduces him to Vanellope, and through this endearing friendship, Ralph will come to learn to love and accept himself as he is. Whether you're a glitch or a bad guy, it doesn't have to define you. You can accept and embrace who you are without worrying about those labels. Watching Ralph and Vanellope together is such a treat, except for this scene.
Literally traumatizing.
They're so entertaining and heartfelt. I just love an unexpected duo like them. Speaking of unexpected, Felix and Sergeant Calhoun are also a surprisingly great pairing. This is a movie where some of the side characters are really given an opportunity to shine. King Candy is an okay villain. The turbo twist was shocking to me the first time, but it doesn't hold up as well on repeat viewings. Sugar Rush is a pretty sweet setting for most of the movie. It reminds me of Mario Kart. I like spending time in that game, but it would have been nice to spend more time in other games as well. The Ralph sequel could have explored this, but as we know, they opted for the internet. I like the arcade setting in general, and especially love the way they used the main power bar as a mini Grand Central Station for the game inhabitants. There's unsurprisingly great animation in Wreck-It Ralph. I'm sure it was a blast to design the game settings along with the characters. It all just oozes with creativity. Odd as it seems to see non-Disney characters like Sonic and Bowser in this movie, it's fun for sure. There's also very strong voice work in the film. John C. Reilly as Ralph and Sarah Silverman as Vanellope knock it out of the park, as does Jane Lynch in her turn as Calhoun.
You are one dynamite gal.
Henry Jackman, who's had a strong presence throughout the revival, composed a score that matches the vibe of the arcade setting, but it still retains a charming Disney flair. The music feels fresh and it pairs well with the other creative elements in the movie. As for the songs, there are some fun original works like the songs for Fix It Felix Jr. and Sugar Rush. I adore the Owl City track When Can I See You Again. It may or may not have something to do with the song being played during the Paint the Night parade in Disneyland. But the very best song included in Wreck-It Ralph is obviously Rihanna's Shut Up and Drive. This song is totally about driving. It absolutely works to have it play while Vanellope practices in her go-kart. I wish I could hear how the conversation went when they decided to use this song. Wreck-It Ralph is a great movie that explores themes of self-acceptance and friendship. I think it's such a special project that highlights just how valuable original and creative stories are. Some plot points surrounding King Candy aren't as strong as the rest of the movie, but it really doesn't hurt it much in the big picture. Wreck-It Ralph is a humorous adventure with so much heart at its core, and it's always a good time jumping into the arcade world. Number 5. Frozen is not just an animated Disney movie. It was a worldwide phenomenon. The movie broke box office records. Let It Go could not be escaped. Olaf was everywhere. For many, this caused Frozen to become annoying and overhyped, and others were swept up in Elsa's blizzard and happy to be there. I do agree that the fervent attention placed on Frozen got to be a bit much, but I try my best to separate my thoughts on this movie from its cultural impact, though it is an important aspect to acknowledge. I like Frozen a lot. I'd fallen off the Disney train to an extent at this time, so wildly enough, Frozen is the first movie from the revival era that I saw in theaters, and it completely reignited my love for Walt Disney Animation. I'll always be grateful for that. Frozen has a strong premise, but the execution of the plot isn't always the most engaging. The middle up to the climax can feel drawn out, but I do enjoy the story on the whole. The sister dynamic is the heart and soul of this movie, and I find it most interesting when Anna and Elsa are at odds with each other. Elsa is one of my favorite Disney characters, as I find her internal conflict to be fascinating and relatable. She was supposed to play more of a villainous role in the story, and while that intrigues me, I'm glad they ultimately landed where they did. Elsa's struggle to repress and conceal her true self is something a lot of people can identify with, and what makes her different does not make her a villain. The true negative force is the pressure to hide who she is. Once she's able to find freedom and learn to take control of her powers and find autonomy, her and the entirety of Arendelle are better off for it. I feel there was a lot more potential to flesh Elsa out and make her even more nuanced and complex, but I understand Disney movies come with certain restrictions, so I can be happy with what we got. Anna is such a fun and likable character. Her outgoing charisma directly foils Elsa's reserved nature, and she's a joy to follow throughout the film. It takes her a while to understand what Elsa is going through, but her determination and her love for her sister is admirable. It's the underlying force behind the whole movie. The film really plays up Anna's naivete and enthusiasm for romantic love, mostly to poke fun at their past works, and while it can be funny, it's also very unsubtle. The whole Hans villain twist continues the trend where King Candy left off, and similarly to that, it's quite shocking the first time but weakens on repeat viewings. I like that with Kristoff, Anna is able to experience a genuine romance, but when it comes down to it, Frozen is about the bond between sisters. This subversion was genuinely touching and refreshing to see, even if Elsa's revelation about how to control her powers is a little weak.
Elsa?
Mom.
Olaf is pretty much there for the kids, but he is an important presence in the film. I wouldn't remove him, but he's not my favorite.
We got off to a bad start.
Ew, the body!
A massive part of Frozen is its soundtrack. Bobby Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez wrote all the songs, and boy if they didn't hit a home run. Let It Go is the obvious standout. This song is actually the reason Disney decided not to have Elsa truly be a villain because it explored more of the nuances of her emotional struggle. It highlights just how vital the songs are to the story. Let It Go could easily be called overrated, but I refuse to buy into that. The overexposure this song received doesn't detract from the sheer quality of it. The melodies are soaring and the lyrics are powerful. In my opinion, it really is one of the strongest Disney songs. I also love For the First Time in Forever and Love is an Open Door, mostly because they're fun. The former does a good job of showcasing both emotions of the sisters as their parts begin to layer and collide. The rest of the songs are solid and serviceable with the exception of Fixer Upper. This song joins a very exclusive and select list of Disney songs that I straight up don't like. Please shut up. Christoph Beck's score does a wonderful job to accompany the film. It's not a standout Disney score in comparison to others from the canon, but it's still great. Some of the darker, more intense segments of music when Elsa is fighting her inner self come to mind as highlights, as do the emotional moments at the climax. Top tier, gorgeous computer animation is sort of the default for the revival era, but Frozen is notable to me, largely due to all the ice and snow. Snow is like a lovely blank canvas for beautiful colors to reflect off of. There are so many stunning backgrounds and lighting techniques used throughout this movie, it's insane. And the building of Elsa's ice castle is just a marvel. There are tons of exquisite implementations of Norwegian rosemailing in the costumes and the architecture. In the age of computer animation, visually, I give Frozen a 10. I believe Frozen was so successful because it took Disney back to its fairy tale musical roots, but put a subversive, fresh spin on things. Tangled arguably did something similar, but Frozen just did more in terms of garnering widespread appeal. It had the hit song, the magical ice powers, the bond between sisters, and yes, the lovable snowman.
Oh, look at that. I've been impaled.
Love it or hate it, Frozen brought Walt Disney Animation Studios to all-time highs. It's a solid movie because what it lacks in some plot elements, it more than makes up for in strong characters, music, and spectacular animation. Where the twist villain can get stale, the power of the bond between Anna and Elsa remains untouchable. For a time, Frozen took hold of the world and reminded people who have been discouraged from being their true selves that it's okay to be who you are, and there are people who will lovingly accept and embrace you in your entirety. It's a vital and impactful message delivered in a fun, appealing way. I can understand why some may choose not to climb aboard, but I will always have my ticket for the Frozen hype train. Number 4. Apparently I wasn't done talking about Frozen. Imagine trying to create this sequel. The pressure to not only match but surpass a film with global phenomenon status.
Miss me with that
But as you've probably noticed, Frozen 2 is in fact ranking above the original, so clearly what they did worked for me. And that's true, I like Frozen 2 more than Frozen. It's worth mentioning that Frozen as a story did not require a sequel, but can you blame the studio for wanting to expand on their most successful film ever? For having to pull a continuation of the story out of their asses, I think the plot in Frozen 2 is pretty solid. I criticized the first movie for being a bit weak in plot and lacking full emotional intricacy, and I feel that Frozen 2 improved in both of these areas, especially the emotion. Frozen 2 takes some unanswered questions from its predecessor that didn't feel super important initially, but it turns them into an unexpected and exciting story. Not to get biblical, but it makes me think of when Jesus took the 5 loaves and 2 fish and used it to feed the masses. Jennifer Lee, Chris Buck, and the story team took some crumbs left over from Frozen and somehow managed to turn them into a whole meal for Frozen 2. Yes, I just compared Jennifer Lee to Jesus. Frozen 2 takes us through some surprisingly complex character development with sisters Anna and Elsa. Unfortunately, Kristoff gets mostly shafted in this movie, but I'd much rather prioritize Anna and Elsa if the runtime doesn't allow for a deep exploration of every character. Frozen is about sisters, and I'm glad that this continues to be true for the sequel. Frozen 2 gets shockingly dark and mature at points, which I love, although I'm not sure how it's gone over with younger viewers. I hesitate to classify Disney movies as kids' movies because I think that's selling them short and ignoring the wide range of audiences they can reach. But it can't be ignored that kids make up a huge part of the demographic, so I do have to be mindful of that. Frozen 2 came out 5 years after the original film, so if a kid was 8 for Frozen, they'd be 13 for Frozen 2, and I like the idea of a movie aging with its audience. Nevertheless, Olaf still has plenty of laughs, so it doesn't get too imbalanced with the darker content. I've heard the Samantha line was a big hit.
I don't even know it's Samantha. After everything that we've been through.
Samantha, where are you going?
I liked the incorporation of the indigenous Northuldra people, but at times the plot surrounding them got a little muddled. Anna and Elsa's parents tell them about these people and the enchanted forest in the beginning, which is important for the plot, but it is pretty exposition-y. It's also somewhat cringy and questionable when it's revealed that Anna and Elsa are suddenly indigenous characters. I don't know, this video isn't the best place for that conversation. The overall mythos in Frozen 2 isn't the strongest, and the new side characters aren't anything special, but they're serviceable for the movie overall. What works for me with the plot is the exploration of the origin and meaning of Elsa's powers. It makes so much sense for Elsa to be so curious and need to find the answers about herself. The tension between Anna and Elsa also feels like a natural progression coming off the tales of the first movie. Of course, Anna would feel overly protective of anything else happening to Elsa after she nearly lost her, and Elsa feeling confined in her role as queen and craving freedom is completely within her character. I've heard complaints about Anna's decision to destroy the dam, dooming Arendelle in the process, but I think it works. Anna is coming straight from the darkest moments in her life, and she sees one shot at making things better, so reckless as it may be, this checks out. Arendelle was evacuated at the beginning of the movie. If it hadn't been, then I would have a big issue. Thankfully, Elsa saves the day and Arendelle survives. I find the shot of the Queen of Arendelle protecting her kingdom to be so powerful. My thoughts on the animation of the ice and snow mimic those of the first movie, and the Enchanted Forest is a gorgeous new setting. The autumn visuals are lovely, and colorful moments like this sequence with the fire are standouts. I'm also really impressed with the animation of the water in shots like these, and with Atahalan. Frozen 2 is quite the sight to behold. I saved talking about the soundtrack for last because it's probably my favorite thing about Frozen 2. I really have to hand it to Bobby and Kristen. I wasn't sure how they were going to top their work from the first movie, but I think they absolutely did. Nothing will touch Let It Go and its impact, but the songs from Frozen 2 are overall much more consistently appealing than the collection in the first film. All Is Found is exposition disguised as a lullaby with a gorgeously haunting melody and a warm acoustic instrumental. Some Things Never Change is a fun tune that reintroduces us to the original cast and sets things up for the events of the film. Into the Unknown? Guys, I think I like this more than Let It Go.
Excuse me?
Let It Go is technically better, but Into the Unknown sets up Elsa's personal arc for the movie and it's so catchy, punchy, and grand. Kristoff may have been sidelined for much of the movie, but he finally gets his own full song with Lost in the Woods. The song and sequence in the movie are meant to imitate 80s rock bands, and it's a fun segment. They may have taken the joke a little too far, as I admittedly am susceptible to cringing at certain points, but I respect the commitment to the bit. When it comes to the next right thing, I'll have to force myself to keep it concise. This song and its willingness to reach deep into the darkest depths of how we as humans experience pain and loss floors me to this day. It's a take on how to cope with grief and depression, and it's so applicable to real life. I still can't believe Frozen 2 delivered this song to us, but I'm grateful that it did. The last song I'll mention is Show Yourself, Elsa's emotional crux in the story. I'm not going to pretend this is the most airtight narrative, but if you're willing to lose yourself to the emotion of this moment, it can be extremely powerful. Let It Go is about Elsa breaking free. And Show Yourself is about her truly finding herself, and I love that this moment involves her mother. It's an incredible song. Christoph Beck returned to score Frozen's sequel, and he composed a fitting continuation of his original work. There are some beautiful and powerful themes throughout. I commend the writers, directors, and everyone involved in the making of Frozen 2 for pulling off this beast of a sequel. It ended up really affecting me, and that's always a special experience. There are lots of possible criticisms of Frozen 2 that are likely valid, but this is one of those cases where I just don't care. I enjoy this movie a lot, and I'm so glad we were granted the opportunity to return to Arendelle and follow along as Anna and Elsa ventured into the unknown. Number 3. Zootopia is a highly creative and socially relevant movie. In the city of Zootopia, all types and species of animals live together, and many of their dynamics can seem quite similar to our human reality. The predator versus prey situation has drawn several comparisons to prejudices many people encounter in real life. The movie doesn't try to make too many outright comparisons, so it's not hitting you over the head with it, but it can be an accessible way to examine some of these issues. Racial prejudice is the most common issue people believe Zootopia comments on. It works really well on a surface level, but when you dig deeper and examine the metaphor more closely, it starts getting messy. When looking at the predator versus prey dynamic, it can't truly be an effective metaphor for racism because in the world of Zootopia, predators did used to attack and eat prey, so even though things have advanced and changed in their society, there was once a legitimate reason for prey to fear predators. And I'm sure that's not what the creators wanted to convey about people. This leaves me slightly confused on whether this is a critique of the movie or not, because it's true if you apply the metaphor directly to real life, it can easily fall apart. But I don't think the creators wanted to specifically have Zootopia be about just one thing. It's more of an overarching commentary on the numerous prejudices we may hold, consciously or unconsciously. Because Judy, a member of the prey group, faces her own obstacles as she aims to become Zootopia's first bunny cop. And she has a weird moment with Clawhauser where the word cute is treated like the N-word. Judy Hopps is a fantastic protagonist because she's a character that experiences prejudices directed at herself, but she also comes to realize that despite her best efforts to make the world a better place, she holds her own unconscious biases against others that require some thorough inward reflection and re-evaluation. I also like that the reason Judy is forced to face the prejudices she holds is because of her friendship with Nick, a predator. Judy goes from really distrusting Nick to warming up a lot as she gets to know him, but even after she considers them to be friends, it's shown that her biases still remain underneath. Showing a flawed protagonist and not letting them off the hook is a great thing to see in any movie, and it works especially well in Zootopia. Even without the relevant social commentaries, Zootopia is still a gripping mystery story set in a bright, fun, animal-filled world. It's engaging, humorous, and entertaining. I think I would like the movie regardless, but when you factor in the added messaging that's seamlessly woven into the plot, it gives Zootopia that extra element it needs to really hit home and solidify itself as one of the most impactful movies of the revival era. Nick and Judy are a delight to watch together. Their journey from enemies to friends is believable and it feels genuine. They're hard on each other, but that only serves to make their connection stronger. These are two of the most fleshed out, charismatic protagonists I think Disney has ever created, and their relationship dynamic reflects that. They have amusing banter, a ton of heart, and they make one hell of a detective team. As for the actual mystery plot about the missing predators, I won't comment on it too much, but I think that it works. There's yet another twist villain as Bellwether is revealed to be the mastermind behind the animals going savage, but it makes sense. The villain twist trope has almost been used to the point of exhaustion, and Bellwether's villainous status was pretty predictable, but it still manages to be effective and credible in this case.
I think Mayor Lionheart just wanted the sheep vote. But he did give me that nice mug.
The animation in Zootopia is top tier, and it really shines because of the vibrant and creative world building. Zootopia is a marvelous place with so much untapped potential. I feel like we only got to experience a sliver of what it has to offer, so I'd really like to see more from this world, whether it be through a sequel or a series on Disney+. As for the music, there's really only one song to discuss, and that is Shakira's Try Everything. The song is performed by the pop star character Gazelle in the movie. They really did the most making a gazelle sexy, didn't they?
Wow, I'm impressed.
Michael Giacchino's score is bubbly and fun when it needs to be, and intense and exciting in the appropriate moments. One of the best qualities about this score is the more noir sounding elements, which are perfect for the crime drama at the center of the plot. Zootopia takes talking animals, something Disney has become synonymous with, and puts them in a world where they must navigate the struggles that come along with coexisting with so many others that are different from themselves. Living in peace and harmony unfortunately doesn't always come easy, but Zootopia shows us hope for the future. The movie is fresh and entertaining, and despite some muddled messaging if you look too closely, I think the main theme here is great. Judy summarizes it best in her speech at the end of the movie. Real life is complicated, and we're all different, but we should always try to make the world a better place. Number 2. The Princess and the Frog marks Disney's long-awaited return to the Princess Fairy Tale musical, as they hadn't made a movie like that since the Renaissance, but Tangled was the first time Disney attempted this format in a computer-animated movie, and boy if they didn't do a fantastic job. The story, animation, and music all just feel so new. It's the story of Rapunzel set back in the late 1700s, but the characters and the story both have a sense of modernity to them that help audiences relate to what they're watching. Tangled explores themes about branching out as well as the fear that comes along with fulfilling your dreams. When Rapunzel and Flynn are out on the boat awaiting the floating lanterns, Rapunzel expresses her reservations.
What if it's not everything I dreamed it would be?
But her following question is the really interesting one. What if it is everything she dreamed? It doesn't seem like that should be a scary thing, but when you spend your entire life dreaming of and chasing one thing, the idea of what you might do after can be jarring and daunting. Flynn's response to her is so perfect and comforting.
Well, that's the good part, I guess. You get to go find a new dream.
It can still be overwhelming as fear of the unknown comes quite naturally, but it's a lovely idea. Tangled makes me appreciate the everyday things we take for granted. Rapunzel is someone who has been locked away and restricted her entire existence, and watching her have the time of her life simply touching grass makes me want to go lay outside and bask in the sun. The simple pleasures we overlook are everything to her, and it reminds me to be appreciative and keep perspective. When Rapunzel leaves her tower for the first time, the vibrant and crisp animation just serves to make everything that much more appealing. Tangled saw computer animation get much more impressive and detailed than ever before. There's so much to appreciate, whether it's smaller things like the wood grains on a paintbrush, or the big and grand displays like the absolute marvel that is the floating lantern sequence. Disney animators stepped up their game here and really began to master the newer craft. Rapunzel and Flynn, or Eugene, I never really know what to call him, are my favorite Disney couple. To me, they have the most natural and believable dynamic, and I love watching as their perspectives and intentions towards each other slowly shift and grow into a genuine love. It all culminates during the floating lantern scene when they sing I See the Light. These two get to know each other quite well as far as a Disney romance goes, and some of my favorite scenes in the movie are the ones where they have vulnerable conversations about who they are with each other. Flynn makes the ultimate sacrifice for Rapunzel, and even though I wonder why he didn't wait for her to heal him before giving her a bob cut, This moment means everything. As they quietly confess that being together was each of their new dreams, you better believe my eyes are watering. Mother Gothel is one of the only clear-cut, non-twist villains of the revival, and thank God for her. She's easily the strongest villain of this era, and she's such a huge part of what makes Tangled great. This is a woman who cares so much about her youth and vanity that she'll steal a baby.
Bye-bye.
It's also fascinating to wonder about her true feelings for Rapunzel. At first, Rapunzel was only valuable for her powers, but seeing as Gothel did raise Rapunzel, you have to wonder if she truly does love her. At the end of the day, what she does to Rapunzel is abusive and reprehensible, so even if she does love her, it's not saying much, but it adds some compelling layers to the conflict. Maximus and Pascal are wonderful fun side characters that round out the cast. The plot as well as the character work in Tangled is excellent. My only complaint is about the moment where Rapunzel realizes she's the lost princess. In a moment of clarity, she flashes back to her infancy and has this revelation, but I can never shake the feeling that this was sort of lazy writing. I would have liked a more concrete reason for Rapunzel's realization, but it gets the story where it needs to go, and I don't get too stuck on this overall. My lord and savior Alan Menken composed the score and wrote the music for the songs in his first and so far only collaboration with Disney in the age of computer animation. Tangled's score is magical and memorable. My personal highlight is the Kingdom Dance sequence. As for the songs, I pretty much love them all. When Will My Life Begin is a modern and bright introduction to Rapunzel and her situation. Every time I hear Mandy Moore sing the opening lines, I think about what an exquisite casting choice she was. The second reprise of this song fills me with exhilaration and excitement. Mother Knows Best is an amusing manipulation anthem from Mother Gothel, but I prefer the reprise where she really digs into Rapunzel and lets her have it.
I think he likes me.
Likes you please, Rapunzel, that's...
I've Got a Dream is cute enough, but probably my least favorite of the songs. Healing Incantation isn't exactly a full song, but it's an integral part of the film and the melody is perfect. I did save the best for last, and I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking that the standout track from Tangled is I See the Light. This song is remarkable. Rapunzel and Flynn take turns expressing their thoughts in their own heads, and then they come together to duet out loud in gorgeous harmony. When a song is this good sonically and lyrically, vital to the character's development, and paired with one of the most magical visual spectacles ever seen in a Disney movie, I'd say we're pretty lucky. Tangled is just so appealing to me at nearly every turn. For my tastes, Disney hasn't had many other films with such strong combinations of story, characters, animation, and music. It's an entertaining adventure, but it also contains affecting themes and character growth that leaves an impact. Combining the princess story with Alan Menken's soundtrack makes this feel like a return to the glory days of the Renaissance while also carving out a new path. Tangled is the movie that finally made me feel comfortable with computer animated Disney movies, and I consider it to be one of the studio's best. Number 1. I can't remember ever anticipating a movie with so much excitement as this. Thinking back on it, I was playing with fire a little bit as I ran the risk of putting too much pressure on Moana and coming out of it disappointed. But honestly, I was never too worried. Something in me just knew Moana was going to be incredible, and I'm happy to report that it delivered on all fronts. Moana somehow actually exceeded my extremely high expectations. Judging it purely from an animation standpoint, Moana is a visual masterpiece. I could watch the movie on mute and still find it captivating. The computer animated Southern Pacific Islands accompanied by the brilliant blue ocean are flat out stunning. The settings in Moana are vibrant, crisp, and endlessly appealing. I'm so glad that Disney decided to tell a story that Pacific Islanders could recognize themselves in. A research team from Disney, including directors John Musker and Ron Clements, traveled to the islands of Samoa, Tahiti, and Fiji to learn about the culture directly from the source. This project was eventually called the Oceanic Trust, and I'm so glad to hear that they put in the effort and recognized the importance of accurately portraying many of the elements of the beautiful Polynesian cultures. Moana as a protagonist is a deeply relatable, tenacious, and determined character, much like Ariel. Bar the obvious difference of Moana longing to be on the ocean instead of the land. Despite that difference, her passion and longing are felt just as strongly. Her journey of self-actualization is epic and powerful and continues to be thrilling even on multiple viewings. One of the best things about Moana was the discovery of the young talent Auli'i Cravalho, who voiced the title character. She brings all the charisma and passion needed to make Moana real to us. Moana's relationship with Maui is both funny and endearing, and the movie sees the two of them undergo some highly meaningful character arcs. They learn from each other in a push and pull, love-hate dynamic. A fantastic emotional payoff comes at the end of their journey as Moana and Maui bid each other farewell. When the tattoo of Moana shows up on Maui's heavily inked body and the two of them share an embrace, the impact is felt deeply. Moana is largely a journey movie, which usually isn't my favorite format, but in this case I'm completely on board. While the plot can sag slightly in the third quarter, the character-driven basis of the story keeps it going strong. The mythos surrounding Te Fiti and Te Kā can feel a little flimsy, and I'm not huge on the exposition at the beginning, but it's only a minor thing to me and it works in the big picture. I like that Maui's character is based on the Maui folk hero and Polynesian culture. The lively characterization of the ocean itself also stems from Polynesian culture, and it really contributes to Moana's connection with the sea in the film. As the movie mostly focuses on Moana and Maui, there aren't a ton of side characters to discuss. Heihei does come on the journey. He's entirely comic relief, but it's a welcome thing. The humor really hit the first couple of times I watched this movie, but it has faded somewhat over time. Moana's parents are solid characters, though I wish they could have been fleshed out a bit more. Grandma Tala is amazing. Her bond with Moana transcends through her death, and she's part of the film's emotional climax. Pua isn't in the movie much, but he's extremely cute when he is. Mark Mancino was a perfect fit to craft the score for this movie, as he captures the spirit of the Voyagers and the grand scale of the adventure to a T. I've previously mentioned my admiration for his talent in cultivating encompassing atmospheres grounded in nature. Lin-Manuel Miranda's work on the songs is impeccable. Where You Are is an infectious number that lovingly showcases Polynesian culture while setting up Moana's internal conflict. How Far I'll Go utilizes the classic Princess I Want formula, although Miranda was able to bring a newness and a relevance to the track, and Moana's longing translates as absolutely genuine. This song is one of my favorites in recent memory as it's melodically beautiful and wildly relatable. You're Welcome, Maui's song, is a ton of fun, and Shiny is weird as hell. It sort of grows on me, but I still don't think I like it that much. I find the shorter track titled I Am Moana near the end of the film to be the most powerful of all. It comes off the tales of Moana accepting defeat, but after reconnecting with her grandmother, a new fire is ignited inside of her, and she comes to believe in herself completely, knowing that who she is will be enough. This stunning display of self-actualization is exhilarating and sends chills straight through me every time. This moment always bolsters my confidence that Moana is truly my favorite film in the revival era. Moana is a spectacular movie all around. I think it's easily the best Disney movie visually in the age of computer animation. I just can't get over that ocean. The story is impactful, the characters are strong, the soundtrack is magnificent, and there is just so much heart in this film. It's a wonderfully crafted story about being one with nature, respecting where you came from, taking risks, and believing in yourself to reach your full potential. And I couldn't love it more. And that's the list. Thank you so much for joining me on this ranking of Walt Disney's revival era. I think the revival is one of the best eras in all of Disney animation, and it's so encouraging that even though things have changed a lot, the studio is still capable of making magnificent films. I'd love to know your personal rankings for the revival era. Leave a comment down below, and if you don't want to rank them all, just let me know which one is your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting like and subscribe, and if you're interested in more Disney rankings, trivia, or video essays, head over to the Trove to check out videos like that. I've also linked playlists in the description down below. I can't believe this is the last video in this ranked mini-series. It was a much more involved process than I initially anticipated, but it's been such a rewarding experience. I'm still new to YouTube, and this series has been the first thing that has gotten my channel any attention or momentum. I really want to thank you guys for watching my rankings and engaging with them in the comments. Even though this is the last ranking for this series, you can count on many more Disney related rankings coming in the future. Again, thank you sincerely, and I'll see you next time.